Okay, well, now there's a lot of people preparing on their feet, one of which is our table topping master, the golden, that would be a good word of the day because I keep saying it, the golden Patti Adams. Over to you, Patti.
Well, thank you so much, dear Kelly. It is nice to be golden on such a rainy day. I mean, who can be sad with all this glitter that's going around? Great job with the theme today, Kelly. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I actually like Shakespeare and did not know that that came from Shakespeare. So it was a learning experience for me. So when I read it, I thought, oh, I just have to give it to Kelly. And if she uses it, fine. If she doesn't, that's fine too. But yes, I've been thinking on my feet. And so instead of me having all these things memorized, I'm actually going to be reading it from my little healthy toolbox I have here. So who wants to be the first to answer a table topics question? Oh, I see the new word of the day is radiate. We are going to be radiant and radiate during this session. Any volunteers? It's only a few of us, so don't make me call on you. Thank you, Carmen. And she's a speaker. Look at her. She's a champ. I have to give her an easy one. Carmen, you just received a pot of gold. You just received a pot of gold. What would you do with all that money?
Thank you, Patty, for raising this question. If I receive a pack of gold, I would probably think of buying something very expensive. Uh, Maybe to say spend it to buy a house, but I don't know whether it would be sufficient. Assuming it is sufficient, probably I would like to buy a beautiful house, beautifully decorated, and make it look like a small castle for myself. Well, I think this is the very first thing that comes to my mind when I receive pack of gold. I'll probably spend it on something very expensive. um, so, to make myself comfortable because life is too short. So probably spend um, spend it on something which make myself very happy and comfortable. So yeah, that's probably what I would do.
Thank you so much, Carmen.
Thanks, Patty.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And I thought you made time. Are you timing over there, Eric? I'm just messing with you. I'm just teasing. Okay. Let's see. Bruce. I know he's there and I know that he's listening. If he can turn his video camera back on, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you. So when Kelly was introducing her theme, one of the things that she says is don't judge a book by its cover. And so since we're talking about all that glitters isn't gold, who have you wrongly judged? Who have you judged wrong in your life? Don't judge a book by its cover. Who have you judged wrong in your life? Bruce Adams.
Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master. Surprisingly, I cannot think of anyone right offhand, but you should not judge a book by its cover. You should try to stay neutral until they either prove you or disprove whatever it is you think that you're judging them on. Because all that gold is not, all that glitters is not gold. I think part of the problem is that we set our standards too high for people, probably higher than we set for ourselves. So we tend to be disgruntled or disappointed with people, even though we probably should be disappointed in ourselves. I'm continuing to think, and I can't think of anyone right offhand that I was disappointed in. Boy, that's odd. probably people that talk a lot and really pump themselves up that really don't know as much as they think as they do, or they're too flamboyant, too verbose, and Steve is going crazy, and tend to evade the issue. I'm at a loss, which is very unique. But turn it back to the Table Topics Master. Who have I been disappointed in? I could not think of anyone. Back to you.
It's perfectly fine. Thank you so much, Bruce. I mean, it's all in learning and training how to speak on our feet. So we're doing a fine job. We're just going to continue to move forward. Kelly, I know she just ran back in. I would like to know, did you receive a gold coin or a dollar coin when you were a kid? And if you did, what did you do with it?
Thank you, Patti Adams, for that intriguing question. My dad used to like to collect coins, and I don't think he gave me a gold coin. I would have liked that, definitely would have liked that. But what he did give me was a bunch of silver dollars, and even the Susan B. Anthony, Susan B. Anthony silver dollar for the non-Americans here. Can I ask, do you know, by shaking your head, do you know who Susan B. Anthony is? No. Well, she was a great fighter for, let me get it straight, for women's rights. And she was for the vote, right? Wasn't she a suffragette? Yeah. Susan B. Anthony. And Elizabeth Cady Stanton. I think those two worked together. And excitingly, I like to do genealogy, and I am related not to Susan B. Anthony, but to Elizabeth Cady Stanton, who had like 9 kids or something. So that was unusual. But it was important to me to have those silver dollars, those Susan B. Anthony silver dollars, because it wasn't that long ago that women got the right to vote. I think it was in the 20s. It was in the 19th Amendment. I think it's 1920, or maybe it's 1919, something around there. So really not like a century ago, 100 years ago. And even my country that is not that old has been around for a lot more than 100 years. And so now when I teach things, I have a couple of books for my son that are about great women of history. And he's like, why do we have to have just great women of history? And I was like, because all the other books are just about men. And it's important to talk about the women as well. And so we have covered both Susan B. Anthony as well as some of the women in England who did the same thing, whose name escapes me right now. But back to your question, I have not, unfortunately, had a gold coin, but I have had many silver dollars, and I'm going to have to, in my move, dig them out and find them, because they have good memories of my father and great memories of women's suffragettes. Thank you, Patti.
Thank you very much, Kelly. And the questions just continue to grow. See, this is what happens when you do questions at the last minute. It's like, it's going to be tough. So just get ready for it and just do the best that you can with it. Steve, are there things in your life that you thought would go one direction and it took a completely different turn? Are there things in your life that you thought were going to go one direction and it took a completely different turn? Steve.
I think there was a statistics that says everybody has around 4 or 5 jobs during their lifetime. And I certainly thought that I won't be part of the statistic. When I was small, I always wanted to be an astronaut or a doctor or even a mathematician. And that was back when I was in grade 1. Come grade 11, we had this section called Career and Personal Planning. And that's when I made my choice. I was destined to be going down this career path, and I'm not going to look another way back. It's one of the highest paying job. Does anyone know what it is? It's to be an actuary. Basically, somebody who study risks and be able to predict, how much you have to pay out in terms of compensation, whether it's on somebody's life, or maybe during a car crash, in a fire, or like in Patti and Bruce's case, maybe during storms and hurricanes, where, insurance company will be able to provide you with the support should you actually are insured. So what actually happened was not what I imagined. I went to the program. So I finished my 5-year undergraduate study to become an actuary. And then the challenge came. It was to get my first entry-level job, my first working experience. And it wasn't easy because back then I studied in Toronto. And although there are opportunities where you can actually become an entry-level actuary, we call it actuary analyst, it was particularly tough for me because there were so many other people with prior experience because they have done their working experience, which I did not, something that I regretted. And if I were to look elsewhere, I would have to move down to the States. And I didn't feel quite safe going to the States. It's sort of like an unknown territory. So what essentially happened was I came back to Hong Kong and I tried to look for such an opportunity here. But just one night, I looked up on some advertisements and a job in Tutorial Center came up. Told myself, why not? Just apply for it, just let it be that way. And since then, my journey has been completely different than what I wanted to be, from the highest paying job to, well, one of the not so highest paying job anymore. But I'll get there eventually. And all that glistens isn't gold. Perhaps I'm not looking for the highest paid job that I want. Perhaps it's the attachments and the upbringing of students, which I can actually see them prosper, radiate, and maybe they will be the future of a generation. They can take upon my dreams. What I don't succeed, they could actually take upon my succession. Back to you, Patti.
Thank you so much, Steve. And then our last question for today is going to go to Eric. So will someone please time Eric? So all he has to do is just concentrate on the question that I'm going to give him. Steve has it. He already flashed me with the green light. Eric, okay. You received what you thought was a gold bar, but it turned out to just be silver. How did that make you feel? You thought you had received a gold bar, but it was only silver. How does that make you feel, Eric?
Thank you, Patti. A gold bar, a goal is always a goal. But as we all know nowadays, in the film that I just learned, thanks for sharing, the gold could be just a glitter. And when it turned out to be a silver, I would automatically think that as a practical semi-investor lately with all the financial turmoil in the recent years, I did actually not in a theoretical way, but in a practical way, do a lot of online searching about the upside of the gold, the real gold. Well, nowadays nobody buys real gold in the house anymore, but on internet. So the pricing wise, it could fluctuate, but it was still in the uptrend. So if I find that gold became a silver, I will actually be appreciate more happier, as actually silver, for most of you might not be aware, that actually has a lot of application in the modern days with a lot of electronics and a lot of application in the car manufacturing. So silver is not that bad compared to gold in terms of the upside when you see the market in the future. So it sounds really money-elastic, and but when we are looking in the future, so that's how I can see it. So, and you always want to appreciate whatever you got on the table. So gold is one of the best, but silver could also be subtle. then of course, I probably when I see the upside trend, I will take the silver and translate and turn it back to sell it and then buy the gold back as one way, as a part of the investment. So either way, I go or silver, I'll be happy to receive it, whenever I get it from.
Thank you very much, Eric. Thank you. Thank you. This concludes our table topic session. However, since we have a little extra time, I am going to tell you all a little bit of story about how I judge someone, because when Kelly said, don't judge a book by cover, it got me to thinking. That's why I added as one of the questions here. We were attending church, and we kind of had like this seminar to where we could get other people to come in and join different teams, you know, like if you wanted to work with greeters who greet people as they come into the church, or if you wanted to, you know, serve as a, you know, life coach to someone, you could do that. And so there was a blind guy that attended our church. His name was Joe. And when we got ready to have this big seminar where you kind of take them to all the different stations to determine what they want to do, usher or greeters, or, you know, whatever role it was, I said, well, Joe, do you want me to take you around? You know, knowing that he couldn't see, but I thought, well, he may hear something that may pique his interest, maybe work with kids or who knows what, but not really thinking that was going to be anything that he could do, because me, I'm thinking everything that would need to happen would have to include his vision. So we go to all the different parts, and then he tells me, well, I want to be a greeter. So I said, okay, sure. Greeters typically seat people in the church. They also hand out programs or bulletins. So I'm thinking, well, how is he going to do that? Now, here's the thing, may call it crazy, but I always thought when you were blind that you literally could not see anything. I didn't know that you could see like shades and of lights and things of that nature. So as we got to talking, Joe says, well, I can be a greeter. If you stand me by the front door, I can see the light that comes in and the shadow. So I will know when people are coming in, and I can then hand them this bulletin. And so even though I was not judging him for being blind, I had unknowingly judged him for the capabilities of the things that he could do in order to serve God and to serve others. And so that was a good lesson to me. And he thanked me for that. He actually passed away last year, but right up until that day, he thanked me for taking him around to all the different stations and inviting him in and not looking down on him, because he was able to do something he had been wanting to do all his life. And that was just to be able to serve others and not have people look at him differently. So just kind of a heartwarming story of not judging someone. And, you know, in this case, everything that glitters was gold. I turn it back to you, Madam Toastmaster of the evening.
Thank you very much, Patti. That's fantastic. It reminds me a little bit of when I went to a wedding once and the organist didn't show up. And so, you know, like the bride's walking down the aisle. And so we basically hummed her down the aisle. We all went, here comes the bride, all dressed in white. And then about halfway through, she's like halfway down the aisle, the organist showed up and he was blind. And so everyone was like, oh, he's late. Oh, he's blind. So yeah, you can't help it. You judge constantly. So it's good to be aware. That's a wonderful story that you shared with us about awareness and about abilities, capabilities, even if you have disabilities. So fantastic. Okay.